So I think we'll just get going. I want to welcome everyone who has taken the time to join us today. This is a webinar to talk about the promotion of women at sea within the maritime industry. And the idea is that we want to explore what the issues are and then see if we can address those issues and possibly come with recommended actions that we could do jointly. Of course, a lot of you know that tomorrow is the 8th of March, which is International Women's Day. So I want to beforehand congratulate all the women with the International Women's Day. In these times that we're facing now, I think that it's more important than ever for us to remind ourselves of the importance with diversity, equality, and inclusion. So we have a really exciting panel today with us. I have Lorena from SIDMAR in Brazil. She is the ITF Seafarers Section Women's Representative. We have Sarah who is a Technical Contact Development Manager from the International Chamber of Shipping. We have Elisa, who is a chief engineer, currently still sailing, and is also a member of our affiliate, AMOSUP in the Philippines. We have Emily, who is a marine culture lead in Maersk. Later on, Arsenio, the IMO Secretary General, will be joining us. We're very lucky to have him participate in this webinar with us. And we have Lydia, who is the ITF's permanent representative to the IMO. And we have also Lena, who is from the Norwegian Seafarers Union and also is our new chair of the ITF's Cruise Ship Task Force. And actually, both Lydia and Lena are the first two women in the ITF to hold those positions. So congratulations to both of you. We have Jens Jakob, who is also from Maersk, who will be joining us a little bit later on, or he's on, but he's in regards to some questions. So I'll just go straight into and ask Lorena if you can give us some thoughts about the launch of the ITF Women's website and maybe talk about examples of work that you are doing and SIDMAR is doing in Brazil.
Thanks, Jackie. I would like to say that it's an honor for me to be here today, representing women seafarers and bringing the voices of women workers in the maritime industry to this important moment. As Director of Gender and Youth at CONTMAF and the Global Representative for Women Seafarers at the ITF, I'd like to greet everyone present and congratulate Lena for her work over the years. Lena, I'd like to say you have always been an inspiration for union leaders to seek more space in their organization. I also want to congratulate everyone who worked on building the ITF Women Seafarers website, which we are happy to launch today in this webinar. Tomorrow is the International Women's Day, a date that symbolizes the long struggle of women for dignity in the workplace. This fight began with inclusion, then moved to equal pay, and continues today against discrimination and violence. The Women Seafarers website is another essential tool in this journey. This platform is more than just a digital space. It's a milestone for all of us, a direct channel for support, information, and empowerment. With this website, we are creating a global network where women seafarers can share experience, report abuse, seek guidance, and most importantly, support each other. In addition, it will serve as a learning space and training, offering materials to help women in the sector understand their rights, gain skills, and prepare for the challenges of the profession. We know that many women face invisible barriers in the maritime industry. Isolation, lack of representation, and unequal opportunities are still a reality. This website aims to break down these barriers by connecting women from different parts of the world, giving voice to their stories, and promoting the exchange of experience. but we will only have a real impact if we all take ownership of it. We need to make it a living space where women seafarers can find support, opportunity, and real solutions to daily changes in the sector. That's why I invite all women workers, unions, federations, and allies of this cause to join this initiative. Let each of us spread the message, expand this network, and make the Women Seafarers website a global reference in the fight for equality in the maritime industry. Here in Brazil, CONTMAS and SINDMAR has played a key role in ensuring that women seafarers are seen, heard, and respected. We have been working actively to improve female participation in the industry, from training to leadership positions. We engage in constant dialogue with companies and regulatory bodies to ensure that hiring women is not just a promise, but a reality. We are part of the Gender and Diversity Committee of the sector's regulatory agency to discuss public policies and promote female participation. We fight for policies against harassment and discrimination on board, ensuring a safer and more respectful work environment. We launch campaigns and initiatives to encourage more women to participate in union discussions and reinforce important causes for women seafarers. We know that every step we take locally strengthens the global movement, and these websites will help us share experience and learn from the other regions of the world. We are here because we believe that women seafarers can no longer be ignored. Our strength, skills, and determination drive this industry, and we have the right to occupy the spaces that were historically denied to us. CONTMAF will remain at the forefront of this fight in Brazil, and today we celebrate the fact that with this website, our voices will be even stronger worldwide. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Lorena, for that. I'll go straight into and ask Sarah if you could please tell us a little bit about the role of the International Chamber of Shipping in helping promote women at sea and best practices.
Thank you very much for having me, ITF, and allowing me to speak. Before I speak about ICS, the first thing I'd like to bring is actually I'm an ex-seafarer myself. I am now shoreside, and I've been really pleased to help with cadet education. I was a lecturer for a number of years before coming to ICS, and I work with the ICS publications and the e-learning academy. So Women at Sea is something very, very close to my heart. If you actually look at some of the reports that are coming through, there's actually only 2% women seafaring personnel at sea. That's such a low number. When I was a cadet, I started very young, walking around the college, and I was a student. Seeing another female face was a novelty. It shouldn't be a novelty. We should be able to be like, oh, there's loads of female cadets, female apprentices, and other ones. So it'd be really good to see that. As I said, the 2021 IMO WISTA Women in Maritime Survey said there was only 2% of women seafaring personnel. And if you look at some of the big labour countries, actually some of them have quite surprisingly less than 500 female seafarers, and that's STCW seafarers. Now, ICS is going to be starting the new ICS BIMCO Seafarer Workforce Report in the very, very near future. And what we're really hoping to see is a rise in these numbers. However, we obviously need companies to, bring the berths on board. We need the support from stuff like the Women's Seafarer Forums, and we are trying to also ICS attract people into it. So ICS developed a video called An Adventurous Spirit, trying to promote seafaring as a career, but not only just doing that as a male and female sort of promotion, they've actually done a little mini video as well, entirely promoting women at sea. And it was called What Does a Seafarer Look Like? And companies promoting out, if you look at some of the promotion material, if you're trying to go into a seafaring career, you want to see people that look like you, for want of a better word. And we encourage companies when they're putting out their employment and their promotion materials to also take this on board. Now, the workforce is a company's biggest asset. If we look at Ukraine, for example, 14% of the workforce between Russia and Ukraine, obviously with what the conflict over there, that's 14% of the seafarer global workforce taken away immediately. Now, let's just say, for argument's sake, that females make 50% of the population. If we don't push forward and encourage people and support people in seafaring roles, we're losing a very big talent pool, and that's something we need to really think about. Now, it's not like when we bring them in at the first stages, it's really good to see stuff like the ITF Seafarers, sort of the website, all these different forums around the world. I'm aware of a few myself. When we're bringing these cadets, these trainees, when women are first coming into sea, we need training not just for our female seafarers, but our males as well, kind of sensitization and diversity training to support them in what is an inclusive workplace. And it's really good. I'm seeing companies doing this, colleges doing this, but we need to do more. We need it to be for everyone. So what does ICS want companies to do? First one is provide a safe and gender-friendly working environment. That's our thing where, you know, people feel safe, they feel in sort of part of that crew. We are all a team on board, and we need to work towards that. We don't want one person out on their own. With the MLC and with ITF, worked to have the personal protective equipment that fits all body sizes. You know, we're all different. I can talk about an incident I had on a ferry. I was working as a loading officer. I had my goggles on. However, I ended up with a bit of grit in my eye and ended up with 3 days off work. Now, I was sort of, when the investigation happened as to why I was off work, it turned out the glasses didn't fit me. Now, women have generally thinner faces, different sort of shapes compared to their male counterparts. We need to make sure that we have the PPE that fits every demographic of our crew. Obviously, the other thing that people might cringe a little bit with this, but we also need to make sure, you know, we are women, we have slightly different needs from men. Is stuff like being on the bridge or in the engine room. You know, if we need to go and change, for example, when I was at sea, I had to call someone to the bridge, take over my watch so I could then go to my cabin and dispose of sanitary items because there was no provision for me on the bridge. Now, that is actually very, very embarrassing for some people. Others might not be so bothered, but, you know, to actually have to call someone to come and take the watch, you know, that's not an inclusive workplace. So if we could just have, you know, provision of in the ship's bonds and sanitary items, discreet disposal mechanism, that all helps with that inclusive environment. Other bits is zero tolerance to harassment and bullying. Obviously, we've got the ICS ITF harassment and bullying guidelines. They are going to be updated shortly. This also includes sexual harassment, absolute zero tolerance. And the big thing is, you know, we're talking about these diversity, equality, and inclusion policies. But if we, as shipping companies, put in these policies, we also need to track them and actually make sure that they are effective. It's no point putting a policy in and not tracking it. Again, other things that ICS is doing, we did have a women's panel, which are made entirely up of shipping company representatives, and we had our diversity, equality and inclusion panel. These have now been merged. And opposed to being our members, which are national bodies, we're going straight to the shipping companies. And they are the people that are on these panels and working with people like the ILO, the ITF and other representative bodies to make sure that it's a good thing. Other bits, so this is something that's close to my heart, so I've got a little bit. Oh, you can't see it. We've also done something called the Diversity and Inclusion Toolkit for shipping. Now, what this is basically it helps shipping companies develop good practice, not just for women seafarers, for everybody. Identify barriers to progress, and also give them strategies to overcome this. Like this is the way we're going to move forward and get that more diverse workforce. And like again, for me, I'm more from the commercial arm of the business. You know, we do working groups, we do review groups for the ICS Academy, for the ICS publications, and predominantly in front of me are male faces. It would be so good, like we have so many strong ladies here on this call, and others hopefully like they're listening too. You know, we want to see more of these faces up actually representing on these working groups. But just to give a summary, we're talking about women at sea. However, you know, if we have a good workplace that everyone wants to be in, you know, they feel respected, they have social connectivity, good lengths of leave. If we work for everybody, no matter female or male, it's going to be a really good workplace for women as well as their counterparts. And that's what we really need to remember. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Very interesting to hear, and also very interesting to hear about the videos and the policy that you were trying to show. Is it possible for you to put up a link in the chat so that maybe that others can go in and then look at the videos and we can spread that policy?
Of course, I'd be absolutely delighted. I will pop them in the chat for you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And now we're going to come to Eliza. And Eliza is a sailing seafarer today. She is serving as a chief engineer. So Eliza, I'd like to hear from you about your experience, what it's like to work at sea.
Oh, hello. Okay, you already introduced me. So I'm still an active seafarer, and when I'm at home, actually I'm working as a fleet manager for NetShip. I mentioned already earlier, but for those who join in later. So my life is actually just continuous learning, because the challenges that I face at sea is the same kind of challenges that everyone face even in their regular jobs in land, because it's not different. All of the sectors has its own challenges, right? So for me, it's only the continuous learning that comes, but it's up to you how you face it. You will take it as a problem or as a challenge or as an experience. It's up to you. So for me, it's only the continuous learning because of the additional requirements that is being set, especially now that we are driving towards green, right? So we have the technology is being developed, and we need to learn. We cannot just stop because we got tired, right? And I think it's not just in the seafaring industry, it's everywhere. But since we are discussing about the seafaring industry, so I think the only challenge now is how willing you are to adapt to the new norms that is happening right now. For example, before, one ship that is 20,000 gross tonnage is manned by 36 people. So now it becomes less. So how can you handle this pressure that the same size of vessel will be maneuvered and will be maintained by lesser crew, right? So the competence of seafarers is always pushed to its limits, but it's up to us if we are up to the challenge or not. But for me, I suggest that we keep on learning, we don't get tired actually of learning, because every day, even if it's very small, every small learning, if it's collected, it's gonna be big. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Eliza. Learning, absolutely. They do say that when you stop learning, you're dead. So
Yeah, I
hopefully we
think
all
so.
continue to learn for as long as we live.
Yeah, but
Thank
I
you.
think even if you're dead, right? Someone is learning with your dead body or something like that. So learning never stops, I think.
Hopefully. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eliza. So now we have Emily from Maersk. Emily, could you tell us how Maersk attract and retain a diverse group of seafarers?
Yeah, most certainly. I can at least give it a go. And I have brought with me a few slides, so please let me know when they are in full screen, please.
It's all good, looks good.
Wonderful. So, hi everyone. My name is Emily, and I work with Maersk as Marine Culture Lead, which means that I have the privilege of leading together with my team what we call the cultural transformation, one team together. So I will try and keep it super brief, but in essence, Maersk is really on a journey becoming a truly inclusive company where everyone, also as Sarah mentioned, are able to bring their best selves to work. And that means that we, over the past 3 years, have been initiating a very big program around how do we create a work environment of psychological safety, of inclusion and respect. And I want to give you a little bit of info on what does that then look like. So when we started this journey, it was super important for us that we understood the challenges that we were facing. So every company is different to one another, but we also have some challenges that we share across the industry. So what we really did was to create a data foundation, understanding what are the challenges that our seafarers are facing, both male and female. And that led us to install a series of different projects and programs that are solutions to the challenges that we saw that we had in our data. And a brief, but a little bit complex overview is what you find here, is that on the left side, we have what we call key initiatives. And on the right side, what we call structural changes. So we always work on a duality between strategic initiatives, such as a leadership program, but also structural changes such as improving our complaint procedures. So I won't go in depth with all of it. I just want to highlight here that we started out by identifying how can we create a work environment that is free from bullying, harassment, and discrimination. We've trained numbers of seafarers. 97% of our leaders have gone through on-site inclusivity leadership training. We are running CADIT and rates and culture workshops on land, etc. So we're really taking a holistic approach to create psychological safety and inclusive work environment for everybody. And now I'm just jumping, I could go on, but I'll jump on to the next slide. I just want to show a few photos for what it looks like out there. So when we do on our big regular trainings that are anti-harassment trainings, basically, this is just some snapshots of how does that even look like? And it is really a team effort, understanding what are my boundaries, what are your boundaries, and how do we reflect together to really move the needle going forward. And as we also heard Sarah tell about, it's super important that we focus very much on the core essence of diversity, equity, and inclusion in everyday life. So in a seafaring context, what does that look like? Inclusive slop chest, super important. One of the first projects that we started off with, making sure that there are sanitary products, for example, in a slop chest. We also have female seafaring sounding board that helps us from the shore side to understand what are the lived experience when you're a woman out there and where can we still improve. We have size inclusive PPE and not just female PPE, because we really want to make this a conversation around the many different people we luckily are in this world. Inclusive vessel design led by a lot of great colleagues, not me. I'm just here to collect the thoughts. But how can we really look at the vessel design itself, the height of the steps, changing rooms for both men and women, etc. And we also have Pride that we support through the Pride at Maersk, and very importantly, respectful victim support, which basically means that we train not only our dedicated complaint team, but multiple shore personnel in how to respond if a person reach out to you with a difficult situation. So DI in everyday life is extremely important in a combination with training our leaders, training our shore personnel in how do we support and improve the working culture so that it really matches the mission. And lastly, having 1 minute to go, I believe, I just want to highlight that it's been super important for us as a company to really take responsibility for the challenges that we have and be very upright, also in public, which means that super proud to say that we in in India have an Equal at Sea initiative where our mission is to have 50% men and women by 2027. But by the end of 2024, we reached the 45% target. So extremely proud of that. Of course, I had the privilege of meeting many of the cadets back in November in India. And I think it's, you know, it's extremely brilliant to talk to all of these young people. On the right side, just want to highlight that we've got a link on our webpage where you can read about these different initiatives, because we really, really find it important that we are transparent about our goals and how far we've come. Yeah, that was within time, I believe. So I'll stop now, but super eager for the Q&A as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily. So I did forget to let people know who are participants that you can put in your questions in the Q&A, and then either my colleagues will respond to them, or maybe we'll take that when we do the Q&A. So I just got a message that unfortunately the IMO Secretary General is running a little bit late. So I was thinking we could go to Lydia and ask about Lydia's experience of working at sea and how she sees the ITF promoting women seafarers in the IMO. So Lydia, please.
Yeah, hi, Jacqueline. Thank you so much. So from my experience, it started several years ago at over than 8 years when I joined the maritime school in Algeria. And I think like many women also, I faced my share of challenges, especially in the beginning as a cadet. I think it's the most difficult period because you're a trainee, you're just joining. It's a new environment for you, so the challenges are much bigger. Going from moment where I had to prove myself more than my male colleague, not only as a cadet, this follows even when you as an officer and in the later stages of my career, but this was something that is very recurrent, and I think any woman or most of women at sea face that. But also feeling underestimated or even encountering, like in most severe cases, discrimination, harassment, and bullying. But I would say that my experience wasn't only about that. There was also this bright side of it. And that's what helped me actually love my profession and keep going in it, pushing forward. I remember that there was those people who doubted my place on board, but there was also those who believed in me and who supported me, and that helped a lot. The ones who treated me as an equal, they just looked for my rank and not for my gender. And that's what we need actually when you're at sea. You just need recognition for what you're doing, for your competences, for your skills, and nothing else. Because once you're there, you're doing your job, and that's it. Woman, man, or whatever, you can be whoever you want. And having people supporting you, believing in you, and treating you as an equal it was the best thing. I think that helped a lot and helped shaping my experience, not only in my career, but also in my determination to advocate for women seafarers, women in maritime in general. So that in parallel, what happened is I joined the union, and I chaired two different committees, the Youth Committee and the Women Seafarers Committee in my country. And that allowed me to connect with the seafarers in general, but also with the women in particular, and know their need, the different experiences, what need to change, how we can help, and how we can progress. And now, in my role as the ITF representative in the IMO, I think I got all the experience I needed and to guide me in my everyday job now. I understand the first-hand barriers that women and seafarers in general face when they are at sea. And with the ITF team of experts and advisors, we're all committed to pushing forward for better regulations and policies that ensures that being at sea is a safer, fairer, and also more inclusive place for everyone. Advocating for regulations, but also promoting diversity and inclusion for everyone. I think it's also important to ensure that everyone is accountable for providing a safe workplace, because it's all stuck there. If you have regulation, but you don't have enforcement and people are not accountable, then we're not reaching really our goal. And I hope that we will be able, with the whole team at the IMO, to make the next generation of seafarers, and in particular women, thrive and not only survive at sea. Yeah, I think that's what I can say for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that, Lydia. So we still have a couple of minutes before we have 5 minutes roughly before the Secretary General. So Lena, I was thinking I'd go to you. And if you could please give us a little bit of background on what the objective was when you were the women's representative to doing the Women at Sea network.
Absolutely. So thank you very much. So the thought of the network was to, connect people and initiatives that are out there already. There's a lot of good initiatives all over the world. And so, the thought is to connect them and bringing these initiatives together, and also bringing all the seafarers and all those who want to be active and everything, bringing everybody together so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, but we can learn from each other, and we can be motivated by each other to go further. So just in the initial stages of this, we started reaching out to a lot of potential, activist people we know who are already out there, also to some of the ITF inspectors, activists, and unions. And already we've learned of several great projects, from various different countries, and unions in Nigeria and Brazil. We've learned from individual employers who have great programs like Emily just described, but also employers organizations who also do great things. So the thought is to bring everything together so as many people as possible can avail of them, if you will. Just a little bit about the current status of the network. About 100 women have already signed up before even the network is launched. We have about 100 women, active seafarers, a little bit, yeah, almost, signing up saying they want to be part of the network. So it's a great interest out there. Most of them, as I said, are active seafarers. They're in very different roles. We have chief engineers, we have second officers, we have captains, we have chief officers, we have, waiters, casino attendants, so very obviously also from very different types of vessels. So from cargo vessels to cruise ships. So it's a huge variation out there. But the common thing is that there is a great interest and motivation to join. And they're also from all over the world, the ones who said they're interested. They're from countries like, we have women from Singapore, from Norway, from Nigeria, from Colombia, Grenada, Philippines, India, Greece, Indonesia, Malaysia, Panama, Ukraine, and the list goes on and on. So we're also very, very happy about that it's such a diverse group of people who are interested. When reaching out, we asked them 2 questions, what to sort of gauge what the network could look like and see what people would be interested in. And the first questions was, which themes would you be interested in? And the second one, how would the network be useful for you if it existed? And there were a lot of different answers, obviously, that came back, but some common themes were an interest in online events like this one, so different that are easy to attend, obviously, with such a diverse group and also geographically diverse group. Online events is a good start. Also an interest in mentoring and role model programs. There's a lot of interest in that out there. And also, of course, sharing of different events, of best practices that are out there, and also policies that companies or unions or whatnot have that are working really well. That's a great interest in that. And also the sharing of real programs that have a proven effect that can potentially be replicated elsewhere. Also career advice as something that stood out that people would want. And also just clear and easy, and this is not particular to women, obviously, but clear explanations of what your rights are as a seafarer out there. And so I think it's not only me, but we think, and also the feedback that we have is that the network must be participant led to ensure that it's a dynamic network, that it's, that it's led from the needs of the participants and not whoever is organizing it. That's very important, so that it provides, again, a real benefits to the participants. It's also again, as I mentioned, to continue to encourage participants to share their events when they have something going on. Please share it with the group. And also, I have to say, not finally, but we've had a very, very overwhelmingly positive response from with the survey questions and everything that we sent out. The response has been very positive. So I think it's very clearly filling a gap or a need there. So that's also very motivating for us to continue working on that, you know, when the interest is so positive. So based on that, I think the next steps will probably be to organize an online event for the women who have expressed interest in the network, and who have signed up, and also, of course, encourage other women to also join and get the word out there. And I think an event like that would be important to carve out the future direction of the network. My personal hope, and this is none of my business, of course, but my personal hope would also be at some point to have some sort of physical meeting. But I'll leave that to others to organize, of course. I also want to say, because there's a lot of just there's a lot of work that has gone into this, a lot of legwork, a lot of to sort of gauge the interest out there. I really want to say thank you to the ones who've done most of the sort of the hard labor, the work that has been done. It's particularly, of course, my colleague Jessica from Norwegian Seafarers Union, and also to Helene Netland and Steve Yandel. There's been a lot of work that's been put into this, and of course also the IT department within the ITF. So thank you so much. There's a lot of work that's gone into this. And then I'd just like to say, if there's someone listening out there now who is not yet in on the email lists and everything and wanting to be part of the network or want to spread the word out there, please do so. And I'll check my technical capabilities and see if I'm able to share my email address in the chat, or of course also reach out to the ITF. Yeah. So thank you. And I look forward to working with you, Lorena. Thank you so much for the kind words. Thanks.
Thank you, Lena. So I think we hopefully have the IMO Secretary General on. Am I correct? I haven't seen anything. Okay, he hasn't joined yet. I just got a message. Okay, so he's still running a little bit late. He's a very, very busy man. So again, really appreciative that he's trying to take time to squeeze us in. Just looking at the chat while we're waiting for him, and I think maybe this would probably go more to, first and foremost, Emily and Sarah. It says, when we talk about inclusive PPE, can you elaborate on the PPE solutions that have been identified? So Emily, would you like to just come in first, and then maybe Sarah?
Yes, thank you. So what we did was basically, I'm sorry, I have a cold, so if I'm a little bit scratchy, yeah, you know why? We sent out a survey to all our women colleagues to begin with, to understand what challenges was it that they faced with the current PP. And from there, we've been working with procurement for more than a year, actually, to do a suitable version where the different sizes, different needs are being taken into account. I want to be honest with you, it's been taking quite a long time. There are a lot of different opinions on the matter, and it's not easy just to solve. But we have been, again, working with data to understand what wishes, what challenges is it that we face, and then work from there. Then we sent out the first version of the PPE, and that is now being iterated actually for a new version that caters to the needs that we hadn't picked up in the original version. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, I'm just going to ask you to hold with your response, please, because we do have the Secretary General now, and I do want to just appreciate the time that he's taken to join us. Really pleased to be able to welcome Arsenio Dominguez to please speak to the webinar and what the IMO is doing. Oh, you might be backstage. Here he comes. I was very inspired by when Arsenio attended our Congress in Marrakesh in October last year, where he was very clear on his support for women. Hi, Arsenio.
Hello,
Thank
good
you so
afternoon.
much. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy, so I'm just going to hand it over to you. I was just saying that I was so inspired by you when you attended the ITF Congress last year and was so supportive of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
No, that's very kind, and of course, you know, I want to start by appreciating all the work that the International Transport Workers Federation is doing, and I'm sorry that I'm a little bit late in accordance to the program, but always, you know, ready to support these very important initiatives, because for all the progress that we have made, there's still a lot that we have in front of us, particularly now that we are just tomorrow ready to commemorate the International Women's Day. And for IMO, this is again a chance to take stock into what we have achieved with the plans that we have put in place, and what are the actions that we're going to take next. One of those, of course, is going to be provided, or at least guided, by the information that we'll receive from the IMO WISTA survey. The results will be published in May this year. That would allow us to measure what we've done between 2021 and this year. And I have said that diversity, and in particularly the role in empowering, enhancing women in the maritime sector, is and will continue to be one of my main priorities. I want to really acknowledge and highlight the important step that has been taken in relation to the launch on the Women at Sea website, that provides a valuable tool for everyone to share information, access experiences, and of course, guide the additional actions that we all will take. And we need to take our time as well and invest in women in the maritime sector. We're here to break down the barriers, to continue to advocate for the rights and drive inclusivity in this very transformative and important sector. Women seafarers are very much vital to what we're doing right now. 50% of the population is women, and of course, we continue to talk about the challenges that we face in relation to the shortages of qualified seafarers, and we need to tap into all the opportunities that we have with women. We have to increase the visibility. We have to be the leaders in respect to the influence that women's work has in the sector. Still, less than 2% of women are actually seafarers. And even when we talk about women in the sector as a whole, for example, the cruise sector, only 7.5% are officers. And one of the main challenges that I have noticed and I have experienced when I speak to women, particularly cadets that are graduating, is how difficult they find it to find jobs in the transport sector, in particularly the cargo ships. They say that they are welcome and they see more opportunities in the cruise sector. However, it's not the same thing when they want to go into containers, carriers, etc. And we need to call on companies, on operators, ship owners, to actually look into the best practices that have to be put in place in order to accommodate women in this amazing industry. And we will continue to enhance our regulatory process when it comes to training. We have tackled harassment, including sexual harassment, the roles of leaderships on board the ships, and ways of the multicultural environment, and of course, diversity and inclusion. So it is needless to say that from the side of IMO, I will continue to reiterate the importance and the drivers that we have in relation to gender equality. I will continue to lead by example. And as we move forward towards a decarbonized, safer, and more inclusive sector, we will highlight and reiterate the role of women. Internally, we have a strategy, a gender and diversity strategy that we will be presenting to the member states in July this year to the Council to demonstrate the practicable, tangible examples that we have put in place to enhance diversity in the role of women inside the IMO Secretariat. And that would also be another trigger to encourage member states to take similar actions. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Apologies for being a little bit late, and I look forward to continue engaging with all of you for what we all agree, and is to continue to enhance and empower women in this amazing industry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Secretary General. Thank you for being so clear in regard to being such a strong ally in championing this important issues for the maritime industry, not just for women, but for the maritime industry. So we very, very much appreciate that you took the time. I know you're very busy, that you took the time to attend with us today. So thank you. So we can go back to the question, Sarah, that we had posed that about inclusive PPE, and if you can elaborate on PPE solutions that have been identified.
Yes, well, lovely following that. Thank you very much to Arsenio for the really strong support. So PPE, things that have been identified in particular, obviously MRC was changed, and it was to have all body types, but to actually kind of go into the specifics of women. It's stuff like, for example, it's not just having small shoe sizes, for example, like for your safety boots. You could go in, for example, I'm a size 7, and you could go and say, oh, that's a men's size 5, and pop that on. Well, actually, that's going to be too wide for an average female's foot. So it's not just a case of having small sizes, having kind of women's and men's sizes. For example, boiler suits, making sure that they're not too baggy, or at the same point too tight that it gets uncomfortable. We've obviously got different body shapes, and that's for men as well. Doesn't matter, different nationalities have different shapes and sizes. The other things that have been identified is, for example, gloves. Women have more slender fingers. So again, popping on a man's small glove, that's potentially an entrapment hazard. If there's a little bit of extra material there and you're handling ropes, that's, so you need to think about that. And the other one, as I was talking when I alluded to, is safety goggles. Our face shapes are different. So again, if you have that wraparound that are designed for a man, which predominantly they are, you've got gaps, and that's how accidents can happen. And the other bit is hard hats. Our skull shapes are different, so we need to think about that. So these are all the things that have been identified, that a human is a human, yes, but we're all different shapes and sizes, and you need to, for it to be safe and for it to be effective, you need to actually design that for the user, and it's not literally one size fits all. So I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We have another question that's come into the chat that I find quite interesting. This is from Lucy Taylor, and she writes, working in ROV, I have found this to be one of the least advanced industries in regards to women, with a culture of fear when it comes to reporting. How do you think we can combat this with the outdated attitude that still exists? After 22 years at sea, unfortunately, I still see the same problems to an extent. So maybe I'll go to Lydia first.
Yeah, sure. It's indeed a real issue that we all see, and even though we can report sometimes, but it's not always really effective. I think it's important to have not only rules that control all of that, because the rule alone will not change the culture at sea. It set a standard, but it doesn't change the culture. So there should be actually, I think, bringing more women. The fact that introducing more women are joining the maritime schools. It's all starting the maritime school, where you have people growing together. If you already study with women and you're familiar with women, and you have more women, then it will be a normal thing. Then when you go at sea or you work in the maritime, it won't be any more a new thing or a strange thing, because you're used to live with those people. So this is as a first step, I would say. It's encouraging first the maritime schools, the leadership. People need to understand why it's important to include those women, because it's a huge workforce. We're already suffering from the recruitment, retention of seafarers. If you include those women, it will make the change in the maritime industry in general. Once you have that as a basic, then I think it's important also to work on the awareness and training. It's important to train people. The Secretary General of the IMO just said that there is a training that has been approved. So there will be a training now in the maritime school that have to be dealt, where seafarers would know more about that bullying, harassment, and sexual harassment and all of that. So, and the fact that we need to work all together, that's a good start, but it's not only that, we need enforcement from the companies. We have a rule, we have regulation, we have training, we have awareness campaign and things that are happening, but if you don't enforce that, if there is no response from the company, and if there is no accountability, then we are not going to achieve that. The company need to make a strict and firm strategy to enforce these policies. If I'm receiving a complaint, because we all know, I know so many seafarers and myself went through that before. You do a complaint, so you complain for the company for something, and then the result is it just ignored, or you sign off, or that there is not really a procedure or a strategy to tackle that. The company itself need to work on having a body that tackles this kind of issue, for example, and make sure that it is enforced. I think these are few things that could be done in this matter, but also, then creating safe space for women in general, like the one that ITF is doing now, launching this website will help a lot, because it's a safe space where women can talk and share the different experiences. Knowing how the other woman dealt with an experience, for example, could help you go through the experience you're living as well. I think this in general, I'm not sure if I answered the question fully, but yeah,
It's a complicated question.
It is, yes, and there is no real solution. We are working to change things. It will take time. I always say good things take time. It will probably take time. There is already a difference if we compare now to before. There is a difference, and with the new regulation coming in, with I think the awareness that we see now, the companies that are getting more involved, hopefully things will get better in the future.
And I think it's also important that we have good role models like the Secretary General of the IMO to champion that, because it's someone that people within the maritime industry looks up to. So, and hopefully it will then be a much easier place to be and to be able to raise issues. I don't know if maybe, Emily, do you have any thoughts about the question about how do you combat an outdated attitude?
I can at least give our perspective on it, and thank you for sharing, Lydia, and also to the person in the chat. I'm not able to see the chat, but I think that it takes a lot of courage also even to talk about these challenges. I fully want to recognize that reporting a situation of misconduct can be extremely difficult, especially if you believe that there is a norm where you don't report, or if you have heard rumors or experienced yourself that the company won't take it seriously. And that is exactly why we have worked tremendously on this specific matter. So in Maersk, we really want to support a speak up culture. It will take time for everybody to understand that they can trust the company in this matter. But we've been working tirelessly on that for the past 3 years. And that means that I fully agree with Lydia that we need to do training and awareness. We need to train our leaders. We need to train our shore staff. We need to update our policies and be very vocal about it. We need management commitment, where management go out and say change is coming. We won't accept this in the future. Zero tolerance towards sexual harassment. So all of that I fully agree with. And then I want to state that we also know from research and from study that people often don't use the official reporting system to begin with, because it can feel extremely overwhelming. So really understanding where do our employees reach out, for example, maybe to a crewing operator whom they trust or a marine people advisor, and then start training these colleagues as well to really listen, give respectful response training, and help them file an official complaint. And then I just want to highlight that Jens Jakob is also here with us today. He is head of global labor relations with us and also in charge of our complaints team. So in Maersk, we've dedicated a full team to update the procedures, handle the cases with a dedicated case officer so that our employees really experience that we do take it serious. So maybe just giving the word to you, Jens Jakob, if you wanted to add something in that matter, but really recognizing what Lydia also mentioned, and thank you.
But the one I sent, when I sent the email yesterday, I shared another version with you, the Lango.
Yes, thank you so much, Amanda. Yes, thank you all. Thank you for being able to join here. I think what we really try to install is both the awareness of being the possibility of going in and raise a claim, raise a complaint, and that it's processed within due time in an orderly manner, but also really making sure that there's trust in the complaint handling. And trust is both from the seafarer that has, stepped up and, dared to come with this complaint or this concern, but also really trust from everybody that whenever we have cases like this, there's trust in the system, there's trust in the way that we handle such complaints outboard, because also trust from a captain or a chief engineer that, when we have these cases, it is handled in a proper manner, orderly manner, but also within a time frame. So it's not something that we just, say, oh, we'll look at it whenever. We have a 24-hour response, I would always say, when we have these claims, because we know how important it is that we get hold of the colleagues involved in such situations, especially the one that has stepped up and built up the nerve to submit such a claim. So yeah, super important topic, and we're really working hard on making the awareness and building that trust.
Thank you, Jens Jakob. So there's also a question in the chat about the network that you were talking about, Lena, and how can other female seafarers, let's see, what does it say? What network were you speaking of? And how can other female seafarers who haven't been able to express interest do so?
Yes. So yeah, thank you for the question. Maybe you weren't quite clear enough to begin with, but also with the website is also the idea, just to backtrack a little bit, with the network is also an idea to create a network of women seafarers, so that they can get together, learn from each other, encourage each other, and hopefully mentor and be of support for each other. So that is the idea, to have both, yes, the website as one thing, but also on top of that, to have a network of women working at sea who can be, support to each other. So that was sort of the network that I was speaking about. And I think someone was more technically advanced than I am, so we're able to share my email address in the chat. So please, if you're more interested in learning more about it, please do reach out and we will make sure that you get connected with the right people. I'm not sure. I hope that answered the question. So
Thank
please
you.
reach out one too many times rather than one too few. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. There's an interesting question here. It says, diversity and inclusivity in different countries have cultural boundaries. So how do we look to identify that gap and work to the ground level? Because as we all know, on board ships, you can have people from very different cultural backgrounds. So what is meant as being inclusive or in one country can mean something completely different in the other. And just cultural differences between where we are, on here we have Lorena from South America, from Brazil. We have Eliza from the Philippines, and then we have Lydia from the Arab world region, and then we have Sarah from the UK, Emily from Denmark. So we are diverse as a group, but when you then add in that extra layer of gender, how do we try to make that fill those gaps where we mean different things when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion? So I'm just going to ask Eliza first, who is an active seafarer now, working with different nationalities, if she has any ideas how we could identify and fill those gaps. Eliza, do you have any thoughts?
Before I answer that, I want to add a little thing about the topic earlier about having the fear of reporting, right? So actually, it's normal to have this fear, but we need to encourage the younger generations to reframe their mindset that this fear is like a sign of courage, right? Because fear is normal, you can feel that. But we should just encourage them that fear doesn't mean weakness, but fear is actually a sign of courage. Especially if they know that something is off, they should really not care anymore what other of the opinion of other people, because people will always have something to say. And for my fellow seafarers there, Lydia, and the former seafarers who the former and still active seafarers, you can attest to this. When you're on board, you might hear people claiming that, I was in a relationship with this girl like this, like that, and it's not even true. So why would you even give value to those comments, right? So this fear is coming from that it might taint who you are, right? That they will look at you differently, but who cares? If you're doing your job well, we just need to encourage them to change their mindset, not to care about this useless opinion of people, because fear is coming from them there. Fear is coming from the judgment that comes after this reporting. But as long as you're doing your job, you're not doing anything wrong, then just go with it. That's all I can say about that. And the next question is about this gaps, right? For
Yes, thank you,
diverse.
Eliza.
I think it's also a matter of mindset, because sometimes we are expecting too much. I mean, coming from an industry that it's only 2% women, according to the census, as I remember. So when you say 2%, it actually includes already the passenger vessels, correct? So in passenger vessels plus the ordinary merchant vessels, 2% is quite small. So sometimes our role as women is to also there's a reason why we're here. We need to be a standard of something, because no matter how small the changes, for example, we are being role models, right, for the new generations. And sometimes you might feel that it's not enough. What you're doing, it's not enough, because I'm contributing too small in this industry to influence them to change their mindset like this. But as long as seafarers, women like us, active sailors, previous sailors that are not active anymore but now are active in different sectors of the maritime industry, as long as we keep on doing things that contribute to the betterness of women seafarers of this, I think it will be collected and one day bring a much huge impact for the entire this women empowerment thing that we are trying to fight for. It's tiring, but as long as we keep on doing it, these little things will finally, we can say one day that, oh, this place is so nice to work with, something like that. We don't need to add any more things, but rather than to maintain what we have
Thank you.
built.
Thank you,
Right?
Eliza. Sarah,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to look at you because, of course, the members of the International Chamber of Shipping are from very diverse backgrounds and all over the world, countries from all over the world. And just to add to about the diversity and inclusivity, that means different in different countries. There is a question in here that says, women working and still being backward. Empowerment of women need to come from the country first. So just some thoughts about that in your experiences.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a tricky one. It's a very, very important point talking. I do agree, and different countries have different policies, but we need to go from the top down. And it sounds like work is already going there, from what Arsenio was saying about the IMO and having that training. But we also need companies like Emily with Maersk leading from the front. Now, we can put policies in place, and we can talk about these policies, and obviously the policies will be in line with the flag of the ship and also where the country's based. However, we need that leadership at the top, whether that's a cultural lead, our CEO, whoever it is, and they need to lead from the front and not just have these policies in place and leave them. We need to back them up. So there's various different ways of doing it. So we've kind of touched on it, like having a whole a whole division based on making sure that we've got this inclusive, equal on board, like Maersk are doing. We've got, at colleges, like Lydia said, when you go to college and you are studying with these people and you have your own community there, and the one that's being made by ITF as well. So we need to broach it in different ways, but the biggest thing for ICS is we need the policies in place. We need to lead from the front. We've got that women's panel. We've got that the DEI panel made up of shipping companies. And we want them leading from the front. We want them doing all these things. And these companies that are doing it and making this inclusive workplace, that's going to attract your best talent. Whether it's male, female, whatever, at the end of the day, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Your workforce is your biggest asset. Your workforce is what drives your company forward. If everyone stopped going to sea tomorrow, we wouldn't have a business, we wouldn't have a job. So those companies that push forward and go for these inclusive workplaces, and you have the CEOs that really back it up, and everyone in that leadership, they're going to get the best talent, and that's surely what you want.
Thank you, Sarah. So now I'm going to, because of course, if you think about maritime and especially international shipping, the majority of the contracts, at least for a lot of the seafarers, is 9 months plus minus a month. Now you're talking about 9 months as an average, and then it could be reduced by 1 or increased by 1. So say 10 months out of a year. And then the seafarers, because they work from contract to contract, go home, sign off, home for 2 months, and then go back on again for another. Is there any thought given to the fact that if it had been shorter contracts so that it was better with a work-life balance, that it would be more attractive industry for women to go to sea? So I know that's very much from a trade union perspective, because we always want to reduce, but it has been stagnant, and I've been in the industry for about 25 years. And that hasn't changed. It still is the norm, unless you're in national shipping, with 9 months plus minus. Officers, of course, could have 6 months plus minus, but it's still a lengthy amount of time. So I'm just opening it up. Maybe I'll take a round to put everyone on the spot. So very short answers, please. So Lydia first.
I will talk from also union perspective, but also from a woman seafarer's perspective. I think, yes, that could help a lot, knowing that you don't have to stay for a long time at sea, that you're going for 4 months or 3 to 4 month contract, and then you'll be home. I think that could really help women going at sea. 9 months is a little bit too much, and it's not attractive at all, especially now with the different opportunities that we also have on shore. I think it's not attractive to spend 9 months far from everything.
Yeah, 9 months is a long time. Any woman who's been pregnant knows that, that's for sure. So Lorena, do you have any thoughts about the length of the contract? 9 months. Should that be reduced to make it more attractive?
Yeah, I think of course would be. In Brazil, we have research that we have 12.8% more or less of officers and electricians in the maritime industry. It's a good number for us. That is more than the 2% of the mundial average. And here we came reducing the time uh, since we had more than 1 year on board, and now here in Brazil we have one month at home and 1 month on board. And I think this contributes but for this percentage that I said that we have a lot of women came for the maritime industry. I think, of course, would be good if it would less.
Thank you, Lorena. Your connection's a little bit bad, so I just want to repeat what Lorena was saying. In Brazil, they have a much higher percentage of women, and one of the things is that they work on a 1-1 system. So they have 1 month on board and 1 month at home, which is most likely the reason that the percentage of women is higher than the average around the world. So Emily, question to you and Jens Jakob.
Yeah, I think we will do a split, but thank you. And what I can say is that before handing it over, that I find the discussion very relevant, and we are really on a mission deep diving into the challenges that we can face in terms of recruiting a more diverse fleet. This also includes sea-to-shore programs from my end, making sure that both men and women are able to join shore as well. But on your very specific question, I would like to hand it over to Jakob, being the expert there. Are you still with us, Jakob?
Yes, thank you so much, Amanda. Yes, first of all, I would say, of course, Maersk is a global shipping company, and we need to make sure that we reflect that global idea in our global terms and conditions, meaning also the contract length. So in industry standard or not, I think, there are various flags where we have other rules, special rules in South America and so on. But I would just say that, of course, we're always looking at, are there any structural challenges, in our terms and conditions in general, where we need to go in or would like to go in and see, okay, can we or should we, and is it really possible to change any of these standards here? But I guess everybody on this call also recognize that, this is a global industry, and just saying, one company can't change everything. Is this a global standard that we are looking at?
Thank you, Emily and Jens Jakob. Yeah, no, one company can't change everything, but they can change their own. So I think that if no one starts, then everyone's constantly going to be pointing at the other. And this is where, at one point, especially when you start looking at the specialized types of vessels because of the fuel and the amounts of money that companies are going to be investing in getting the seafarers properly trained in the very different alternative fuel options, that they're wanting to keep them. And to keep them and to actually make sure that you have the best talents, you're going to have to offer better conditions. So I'll continue to go around, and I am going to do Sarah, Lena, and then Eliza last, and she is actually an active seafarer. So Sarah first, and then Lena, please.
Thank you very much. Obviously, we are a ship owner. We represent ship owners at the national level, and also the international level. That might help. So you make a very, very good point. One company can change things, because when one company starts moving things on and gives the better conditions for the seafarers, you will get more people going that way. Obviously, we do have lots of different regulations nationally, and they've all got to be considered. But we've also got different trade routes. So, for example, like an offshore supply vessel working in the North Sea, for example, that's a really tough gig. I've been there, I've done it. You couldn't ask them to do 11 months on there. But then people might look at the cruise ships, for example, a bit easier. They've got more there. Now, I personally know there are companies out there that are reducing across the board the amount of time on board, as well as the leave. And some of them are even putting in policies for new or expectant mothers when they return back to sea. And I saw that in the chat, that they are actually looking to, when the mother is returning, actually have shorter contracts. So we are making steps. And if every company makes steps, you know, maybe we don't have to regulate this at an international level. So that's my thoughts on it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Lena, and then after Eliza, please.
There, thank you. Yeah, I have to, of course, also chime in there and say that 9 months is it's too long. And then one thing is too long in order to attract women to the industry. That's one thing, but it's also too long, period. Because it is, you know, we've had recent research come out there from the World Maritime University, for instance, just saying a lot about the health implications of working contracts like that, and it's beyond any recommendation out there. So it is too long in terms of fatigue, in terms of risks of accidents, a risk of, you know, to the health of the seafarer, and of course also it is something that is holding recruitment of women to the industry back for sure. Just like Lorena here in Norway, we also have shorter contracts. Women work, or not all women, seafarers work potentially, you know, either 4 weeks on, 4 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And our percentage of women working at sea is significantly higher than internationally. So it does say that it is a very good tool in order to attract more women working at sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Lena. And Eliza, what do you think about the length of contracts?
Yeah, hello. Yeah. About this one, actually, culture does a lot of differences to this, because with Filipinos, it's actually, I'll set my company as an example. We're trying to aim with the help of our owners. They also want to help us with these reduced contracts. So they made a survey actually. But unfortunately, most of the men actually wants the longer contracts. So actually, we are talking about inclusion, right? So if you want to be included, and that's the majority, so I think it's also it's also our part to respect that, right? Because it's the majority. I know we want that. I know we want it. But sometimes if we are trying to be included, we want to be included, we want to be accepted, we should also somehow accept that this is the decision of the majority. That's why it's made. So my only comment to that is really, because each individual company has differences, right? So you just need to find a company that suits what you want, because in time, people will really realize that staying too long on board ships will really affect your mental health. But sometimes, as I told you, some culture really wants these long contracts, and I'm not sure also why, but sometimes I put my place on their shoes, and especially with the breadwinners. Like I said, culture, Filipinos like me, we are so attached with our family. So it's something to do with cultures. They need to help their brothers go to school, and that's why they prefer the longer contracts. And of course, if majority of them likes it based on the survey, then it justifies that we keep the 6 or 9 months contract for everyone. So that's my opinion about that.
Thank you, Eliza. I'd be happy if we were able to just reduce with 1 month. So it wasn't 9 months plus minus as the norm, but maybe 8 months plus minus as a start.
Yeah, I will be happy with that too. Actually, the solution in my company, they paired me with a Polish guy, because this Polish guy has 2 months contract. Because
Okay.
before they want to pair me with a Filipino, but this Filipino insisted to have 6-2 or 4-2. So they paired me with a Polish guy. So we did 2-2. So yeah, it's up to you also. If you are brave enough, you can put this suggestion, then yeah, it will be given.
Well
If
done. I'm glad that you were able to find a company that appreciated you and was able to find you a place where you could have shorter contracts. So it's been a really, really interesting discussion. I know there's a lot of posts in the chat. I think that it's important for us to, before we end, and just want to go around after to see if anyone has any ending comments. But employing more women in the shipping industry can also open the door to better understand the important issues of unrepresented groups. It is a basic human right that people are appreciated for who they are, regardless, of course, of their race, religion, culture, gender, age, disability, or sexual orientation. And the ITF women's representatives in our youth groups have identified criteria when it comes to inclusion, equity, and diversity in the maritime employment. And we're looking to incorporate these into the IMO with the help of Lydia and the ITF colleagues who work within IMO for the strategic direction going forward. So any short last thoughts you want to share with everyone? And again, I'm just following my screen and going across. Lydia, you are at the top of my screen, so you first, please.
Thank you, Jacqueline, for this amazing event first. I think it was really nice to have these panels and all this discussion was really informative. But last thing that I would like to say, I have one thing for the companies and one thing for the seafarers. When it comes to the companies, I think it's really important for them to ensure that their crew members and seafarers in general understand that it's not about the gender. It's not the genders that define the seafarer's worth, but it's their competences and talent. And for the seafarers and the women in particular, I would say individual resilience is very important. However, real progress comes from collective actions. And that's why it's important to be in a union so that you have that collective actions that will cover you. And that's all what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Lydia. Lorena, do you have any last comments for us?
I think it's a good discussion. How you said, you have here a group very diverse. We learn things of all parts of the world, and we learn how we say that the website will be very good for this too. And just thanks for the opportunity to be here, and we will spread the message in Brazil. We'll divulgate the website. We think is very important too. Thanks.
Thank you, Lorena. Sarah?
Again, just to reiterate what the other panelists are saying, thank you very much for having us. Just from ICS's viewpoint, we need to keep working together with people like ITF, the IMO, other regulatory bodies, and keep pushing this out. But also from a company perspective, we need to actually monitor this and implement this, monitor it. And if it's not working, go back and redo it and keep going. You know, let's get that 2% figure up, and hopefully the next reports will show us that we have got more seafarers and we're retaining more female seafarers.
Thank you, Sarah. I did write down when you were speaking about track the policy. Very important. Emily?
Yeah, first of all, I would like to say thank you for having me. It's been a really interesting discussion, and from the Maersk perspective and from the company perspective, what I believe it will be extremely relevant in the years to come is really to be brave and keep on pushing this agenda, so that all women seafarers and all seafarers in general know that companies are right behind them in the mission of really creating a maritime industry that is filled with psychological safety, respect, and inclusion. And that is the commitment that we seek to immerse. That's our path. And I think it will require a bit of bravery in the years to come. But thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Emily. Lena?
Thank you. Yeah, just very quickly, I would say this event is, it's been really great, and it's been great to attend, and I'm so happy there are so many attendees also at the webinar. That's great. I also would like to say that this is the beginning, it's not the end, so we're going to continue working and expand, hopefully, and I very much look forward to that. I also wanted to touch back on that, something that was brought up earlier, and like in terms of this looking different in different places and different cultures. And I very much agree. I just want to say that's also one of the things in terms of network and also sharing different ideas, because one solution that works well in Norway might not work well in India. You know, it's going to be very different what works. So that's why it's so important to learn from each other and to find solutions that work where you are. And then, of course, knowing that seafarers are international and used to working in an international environment, of course, as well, which is also very important. So thank you. Look forward to going forward.
Thank you, Lena. Jens Jakob?
Yes, thank you so much for inviting Maersk to this event. We're really happy that we participate in these things. And I think, you know, the dialogue that we have here is really, I think that's the way forward. when we're talking about changing the culture, but also from their side, really continue on the journey about the cultural transformation that we started out, and really looking forward to continue on that journey, and also share where we are with you, ITF, and with anybody else who wants to listen to us.
Thank you. And last but not least, our chief engineer, Eliza.
Okay, I just want to say thank you because these gatherings are actually a way for us to keep on learning from each other, especially with the different sectors, because you cannot be an expert with everything. So you're learning from our side in the active maritime industry, and we're learning from Maersk Line, from different companies, the ITF, who is our advocates for this. At least we know our rights, we know our support, and especially we have some audience. I saw some cadets listening, so at least they know we are visible, and they already have us in the industry to support them and to make the path actually easier for them. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Eliza. I want to thank all of you for taking time. I know everyone's very busy, and it's soon Friday afternoon, or late for those, for Eliza, who's in the Philippines, early morning for Luina, so she still has some time left. I want to thank my colleagues who have set this up, who've worked behind the scenes and been in contact with everyone. I hope that we can do this again. We could maybe focus specifically on one specific topic, but I think it's really important to show that we are here because we do believe in diversity, equity, and inclusion, regardless of what some leaders around the world say or mean. So sorry, I had to get that one in there. And I do want to wish everyone a fantastic International Women's Day. There were women who've gone before us who have done so that we are where we are, and we continue to support the women who are here with us now and be in the future. So thank you all. Have a lovely weekend and enjoy International Women's Day. Bye.